Ukraine.
Welcome to the Rig on Wheels show featuring MPT, the show built for professional truck drivers, bringing you the latest insights, hot jobs, and tips to keep you moving forward. Powered by Mesilla Valley Transportation, the leaders in safety, fuel efficiency, and innovation, with over 1,600 trucks on the road. Let's hit the road together. This is the Rig on Wheels show featuring MPT.
Okay, so the U.S. and Canada has a tariff battle that is crazy. It's like East Coast, West Coast type thing. But it's not just all about trade. They're putting truckers, it's crazy. It's putting like our industry in a turmoil, in my opinion. But Pierson and I are going to break it down. I know we're probably going to have a difference of opinion here about this tariff and everything that is going with it, and all the direct and indirect costs and dangers. So we're going to kind of get this thing going. But happy Tuesday, everybody. I am the host and owner of the Rig on Wheels show. And of course, we have our favorite VP of recruiting over there at Mesilla Valley, Pierson, Robert Pierson. We call him Pierson, but his mom calls him Robert Pierson, right?
No. I will never share what my mom calls me.
Right. It's a family show. But no. But this is the #1 truck driver and recruitment show. And we, of course, talk about industry news, hot jobs, truck driving tips, recruitment tips, everything. But we are going to talk about the tariffs. We're going to talk about the East Coast, West Coast battle of that. But we have a lot of great things, some hot jobs, like I said, a lot of hot jobs that Pierson shared with us just a little while ago that we're definitely going to talk about. But let's jump into it. You want to talk about freight right quick, Pierson?
Yeah, sure. Kind of an interesting dynamic on the market right now. Right now, contract rates are sitting at $244 on dry van, yet spot market's at $2. That's kind of an interesting phenomenon. Normally, those rates have been separating. So if you go back to January, same time back in January, contract at $243, so that's gone up a penny. Spot market at $204, that's gone down 4 cents over the last 2 months. Kind of a bit of a unique phenomenon there. The biggest factor freight-wise, even along the U.S.-Mexican border, has been weather. High winds have been the tail of the tape here. So talking with most carriers, as well as what we're seeing in the spot market, there doesn't seem to be any suppression of freight. There appears to be a number of weather disruptions that have interrupted with huge swaths of the economy here, where spot market, in particular, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, the Great Plains states, essentially, anything going east-west has been definitely impacted. Professional drivers, if you've ever gone along I-80 in Wyoming from about Fort Bridger all the way to the Nebraska-Wyoming border, they have these massive pillars on the side of the interstate for snow drifts. There's a reason why those pillars are there. You are basically a broadside of a barn being knocked down by torrential wind. That's been the biggest impact so far. Don't see it much yet in terms of anything with a trade war. The weather has been the biggest factor up to this point.
It's crazy. It's like I literally feel, and I'm not a trucker. You don't want me behind the wheel of anything, actually. But the weather is just so bipolar and volatile. In Houston, we're getting all 4 seasons, I want to say 5, in one day.
Yeah, it has been an interesting phenomenon here. And the big, in February, it was definitely snow and storms and rain. The story of March so far this year in terms of freight has to be wind. I think it was Captain Planet that had somebody from my childhood that had wind as a superpower. That person's been the star of the show for this month.
Yeah, I've been seeing on Instagram that a lot of trailers have been tipping over and all of that. And that's another thing we're going to talk about is safety. I didn't say that, but we're definitely going to talk about safety as well. That is for sure. I want to give a shout out to Sage. He's a overweight broker. So he does a lot of overweight and all that type of stuff. He's specialized brokers. I want to shout out him.
I am glad you specified broker because I thought you were going to insult Sage here on this podcast.
Oh, being overweight. Oh God, no. We don't talk about that type of weight. We leave that out. Oh my God. There are some times.
That pause in your speech got me concerned.
I was trying to bring up my next word there. Oversized, and I did say overweight. Oversized. Sage, it just, he said, I know what you were trying to say. Thank God. Sage, there was one time that I said I was I was a serial killer. I was a man eater on the show. And Pierson was like, what? And I was not understanding why he kept saying what. And after the show, I got a lot of people saying, why were you saying that you ate people? And I was like, oh, that's why. Yes. Okay. But yeah, oversized, not overweight. I knew I was saying something wrong there. But either way, Sage, thank you for being here. That's for sure. But either way, I have seen a lot of that on. Darcella said, thank you for clarifying. I've seen a lot of that on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube, on Instagram, with trailers tipping over because of the wind. This time, that's for sure.
It's one of the things that I will tell any driver, understanding the dynamics of if you have a 40,000-pound load, a 12,000-pound load, or you're running empty, understanding the dynamics involved with that. People think a lot about that with tanker because of how liquid will move inside of a tanker. But in the dry van world, you have a broad swath of a trailer that good crosswind can do some damage. And the weight, often a heavier load can be beneficial compared to a lighter load in that scenario. So just being cognizant of the wind and having that conversation with your dispatcher. I do not believe it's safe for me to go down the road based on the weight and the wind I'm facing right now. Is an honest conversation to have, needs to happen more often. I can tell you from a ease of getting hired someplace else standpoint, being tipped and laying the truck on its side, just like a jackknife, just like when you don't have control of your vehicle, can be a major career hindrance as a professional driver. In the world of over-dimensional freight, it could be hitting a bridge. In the world of dry van, flipping the trailer or the truck over is kind of the kiss of death.
Yeah, it is the kiss of death. It's not kind of, it is. When I drive and I see a truck that has laid over on the side, or I'm looking at the news and I see that, the first thing I think is, damn, like that driver's career. And it could have been any number of things, but the first thing, because I'm a recruiter, the first thing that comes to mind is I think of their career is, gone. And I start thinking of rent and mortgage. I literally start thinking of bills that they have, and now how are they going to pay? And unemployment doesn't pay for all of that. Those are the things that come into my mind immediately before
about 10, 12 years ago, my wife and I were driving on I-40 through Arkansas, and ahead of us, literally it was the next vehicle ahead of us because the driver passed us like a bat out of hell. The winds were strong going around that part of Arkansas. I got to be careful where I say because it would give away who it is. That driver most likely was probably 10 minutes from his ultimate destination on where he was going, and literally watched him tip over. Brand new truck, did not have freight in the trailer, so it was an empty trailer. So where he was going to pick up freight, I should say. And his career at that moment changed dramatically. Thankfully, he got out. He was able to climb out. The truck was on its side, climb out of the truck, and look to be okay physically. But his career took a very different path at that moment. I can tell you he was driving fast. He was driving unsafe for conditions and had the entire side of I-40 blocked at that point, which was 2
Yeah.
lanes each side. That at
Mhm.
that moment, what was probably a very rewarding career changed dramatically. And quite frankly, he didn't follow probably the advice of a lot of safety managers and fellow truck drivers on the road, and went his own way and probably not driving today, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It just, yeah, that's the first thing I think of. Okay, so let's get into it. I made sure I wrote up a lot of things and read even more because I was ready for Pierson. Pierson comes ready for this. So I wanted to be ready-er. That's a
We'll
word.
see. We'll see. Let's go.
Okay, so now, good old Trump, he was supposed to come and save our industry. Okay, I just want to point that out. Now, he has now put double planned tariffs supposed to start tomorrow. On, I don't know if he has these hangups on the reason why certain days or whatever. I know he's superstitious, but anyway, tariffs on the Canadian steel and aluminum, and it's supposed to start tomorrow. So that's going to be increased cost on, and this is going to be a direct hit for our industry. Pierson, direct. So that's going to be equipment cost. So that's truck production, and that's going to be freight rate, operational costs, supply chain delays. That's a big deal, Pierson.
We're not selling that many trucks as an industry right now to start with. Truck production has been down considerably since about 2022. And most of what is being purchased over the next 12 months is a truck that's already made or already has the supplies lined up. So this is one of the things is, kind of like Theodore Roosevelt said, walk with a big stick, not so that you get into a war, so that you can do some intimidation. Heck, the Cold War with Russia was built on that. We kind of understood that there was a fear of mutual destruction between Russia or the USSR and the US during the Cold War. Because if they launched one, we launched one, and vice versa. Now, we're not dealing with nuclear weapons in a situation like this, but what I'm seeing here is a whole lot of posturing.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Ontario, as an example, wants to put a tariff on electricity going into the U.S., or it doesn't work that way, but increase the cost by 25%.
Right.
That sounds bad. That really impacts New York, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Vermont. That's who that impacts. It for down in Texas, that means nothing to you whatsoever.
No, it doesn't.
And so the thing that we're witnessing here is a whole lot of big stick wagging. The interesting dynamic about this is, for lack of a better term, it would appear that Mexico is going to kiss the ring. They're going to go ahead and work with Trump, kiss the ring, and it's going to be loud and boisterous, but we're going to come to a conclusion on that relatively soon with Mexico. Canada's a different story. Canada, this realistically, considering where he was politically, for Justin Trudeau, may be the greatest thing that ever happened to him. Because it gives him some usefulness here before the election comes up, as well as the Liberal Party up in Canada. A lot of finger wagging. Canada's a little bit like the U.S. from there's a lot of autonomy at the province level compared to the country level. Kind of similar to the U.S. A whole lot of stuff figured at the state level rather than at the federal level. So you'll see Ontario, as an example, have a counter to what the U.S. is doing, where Alberta could care less.
Right.
So it is going to be an interesting dynamic. It's not so clear cut in Canada, because I can tell you that Alberta is probably a big fan of what's going on right now. Ontario is absolutely not a fan of what's going on right now. So it is going to be somewhat confusing over the next several months.
Well, okay, so let's say this. We live in Texas. There's a lot of things that don't apply to us, but Texas, for an example, with electricity, Canada, Ontario can do the whole thing to the United States, which they can't. But if they did, it doesn't matter because Texas is on their own grid because we feel like we're our own country. That's a whole nother thing, and it works out very well until it doesn't, and we freeze. Next paragraph. But Canada is going to be slow with everything because they politically feel that they have a lot to prove. The president in Mexico is already there. She has her stance, and she is trying to work with versus work against. So there is, like you said, it's a difference. The new designated liberal guy, Carney is his name, correct?
Yeah.
I think. Okay. Well, he's trying to have his stance, and he's want to have the appearance that he's stronger than Trudeau. So he's like, oh, we're gonna do this and could have this tariff beef or war, East Coast, West Coast, as long as U.S. doesn't respect us. Well, we have Trump, and U.S. doesn't respect many people with or without Trump. So it's just going to be all type of things going. But I do feel that with this electricity thing, even though that particular thing is not going to affect all of the United States directly, it can affect us indirectly because you're talking about warehouses, and it may not be at this moment, but you know how, like you say, 6 months down the road and a year down the road, those are those indirect costs that sometimes we can't do the word problem and take it back to this time. And that's kind of what it's going to be. It's going to be back to this time. And I think that everybody just assumed, I did as well, that Trump was going to come in and do some things for our industry. And as of now, when is he going to do that?
I would say that the aluminum and other precious metal industry of the U.S. is extremely excited right now. They're applauding this by a wide margin. Now, with that said, from a greater standpoint, is there's no such thing as bringing back the manufacturing jobs. When the jobs come back, it's generally more of an automated process. So if you look at it as an example, Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana, at its peak in 1960, had about 300,000 people, had about 50,000 people that worked in the steel plant. You can fly over Gary if you ever fly in the Midway and look down and see the steel plant that in its glory day, you can just imagine what it was doing.
Right.
They now have about 500 people that work at that plant. I think it's technically owned by a Chinese company, though. Don't quote me on that. Those jobs aren't coming back. They don't come back the same way. With that said, the thing to keep in mind here is whenever there's any type of economic thing, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. So that's going to be the question for a lot of things here. Is it a net gain or a net loss? So I'll give you an example of how we have to think about this. You know, DOGE right now is looking at the bloated nature of our federal workforce. If, let's say, Kansas City has about 30,000 federal workers. So if, for whatever reason, let's say that got cut in half to 15,000, would that have a short-term impact on Kansas City as an economy? Oh, absolutely. You got 15,000 people that just went unemployed. Right. With that said, the argument could also be made is if your economy is that dependent on, if you're a large metro area and your economy is that dependent on the federal government, that's not a sign of health. That is bad. Yeah. Now, the thing that's been interesting, and this is where we got to step back and not let the media lead us down a path here. This is not a Republican idea. In 1993, Al Gore was the first one in about 20 years that wanted to reduce the federal workforce by 20%.
Bill Clinton
He got stopped.
Right.
Carter, during the administration under the Carter administration, tried to get early retirements. He got blocked by the machine. The question is here, is there short-term bad effect if you have, there's 4 million federal workers. If you had 1 million of them go unemployed within the next 12 months, would that have a negative impact? Absolutely. That's 1 million people that don't have a job. Long-term, does it end up being a better thing that we have people that probably are not the most productive and efficient people in a government that overspends every year since the 90s? that little bit of economic philosophy in there. Long term, it's probably better. I am long term optimistic. I am short term bearish. Now, that doesn't mean I agree with everything going on right now. I do not. I hate tariffs. I think tariffs are the wrong way to go here because you increase costs, which defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. With that said, this is one of those discussions we've had over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Is we're going to be in that situation that realistically, I don't look at any new presidency. I did it with Biden. I did it with Obama, with Bush, with Trump in his first term. I don't look at any president's results till we're at least 6 months in. I can't, because the problem is it's like watching the stock market. If you have a 401k, if you watch the stock market,
especially not now.
Oh, if you watch the stock market every single day, you'll be in panic mode.
Right.
I have to tell people repeatedly, dude, stop looking at the stock. You're not a day trader. You're not doing 15-minute trades on the floor of the Dow Jones.
Right.
You're playing a long game here. I check on it once every 6 months. Well, I look at it for other reasons, but in terms of my 401k, I look at it every 6 months. I don't really try and read it by one day, because if you do that, you will go insane. And our podcast here will probably turn into about a 5-hour podcast next week. So I generally step back. I have some short-term concerns. I think it is in Canada's best interest. And the other part here, Canada has an election coming up. The Liberals, I would be shocked if the Liberals win. They just have too much against them. And the carbon tax in Canada has been a killer for the Liberals. I would say when their election comes up, most likely it's probably Pierre that's going to end up winning. And Pierre's probably going to be very receptive because Canada needs the U.S. economy more than the U.S. needs Canada. Now, it's mutually beneficial for both of us. Canada's a very valuable ally. But Canada's got about the population of California, very diverse, spread out across the bottom part of the country. They are heavily reliant on the U.S. industry. I would think that Trump has people in his cabinet that are well aware of that fact. I think we're going to be okay, but short term, it probably sucks.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of tariffs, especially the way we're doing them. I definitely am not a fan of tariffs. Doge, I'm not going to say. What I will say is Elon Musk is the entrepreneur of entrepreneurs, and he's coming in and doing exactly what a CEO is supposed to do. And he's looking at things not emotionally, and he is supposed to balance stuff. Everybody else is needing to look at it emotionally and advise him. That is,
I will say this. CNN ran an interesting poll about a week ago, and a large-scale poll. And CNN is, I would describe as liberal. It's not conservative outside liberal. Of a couple talking heads.
Right.
62% liked what Doge was doing.
Yeah.
Now, only 42% liked Elon Musk or had a favorable reading of Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be clear, Elon Musk would never win an election. If he ran for president, he's awkward. He's socially awkward. He's the eccentric rich dude. Yeah. He'd never win the election. But the majority of Americans, in fact, when they specifically broke it down by Democrat, 46% of the Democrats liked what Doge was doing. So it's one of the things to watch here is this. I as a libertarian, I want the Democrats to put up a good fight in the election because I believe it's better when the pendulum goes back and forth. What I really like is when the president and the House are different parties. I think part of why the 90s went so well, there was bad parts, is you had a Democratic president, but the House was conservative and they had to compromise and they had to work together. Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton could not be more different. The Democrats need to stop fighting these 80-20 battles where they are on the wrong side of it overwhelmingly. In what was, I'm sure you watched the State of the Union address.
That disaster, and they get up and walk out and all. It's just, they fight the wrong way. When they need to be strong, they're weak. and limp and pathetic.
Right now, the
And they need
Democratic
to be
battle, the Democratic battle cry right now is we're just going to be loud. Like there's no real vision at this moment. And as a voter, as an independent, I go either way. As a voter, it frustrates me because I want them to do well in the midterms. I want them to bring candidates that have a chance to be that counter, that yin to the yang, if you will. And I don't see it yet. That's the part that ultimately right now, look, Trump is who he is. Hell, I'll give Trump credit. He's doing exactly what he ran on. All this stuff, he literally said, I am going to do this
going to
stuff.
do. Yeah.
I give, like it or love it, he is at least running what he ran on is what he is doing verbatim. The Democrats need to find some vision, and they have to speak to a larger party, a larger encompass of the voter base. That's what really concerns me.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. What bothers me is it's so well, I guess of course it's going to be the American people, but because we're in trucking, a lot of it concerns us so greatly. It concerns us so greatly because whatever moves, I was involved in this networking thing last week or the week before, and it was like, well, we're logistics, and most things that are in this country are come on a truck. I said, no, everything in this country is touched by a truck. Some things are touched by air, some things are touched by water and rail, but everything is touched by truck. So I had to definitely let them know I was in the wrong, because sometimes they forget, and everybody wants to be transportation. I mean, wants to say we're all the same in transportation. I have to say no, we're not. No. But it touches us so greatly, and they forget that at the end of the day, the trucking industry, the truck driver, while they're here making all of these rules and all of these laws and everything, these are the people that are really affected. And then these are the people that have to bring the stuff to your kitchen table, and you're this and you're that. Those are the things that play in my mind so much. And like, how can we get to that? Where's the ends, the means to the ends? When are we going to see a reprieve? I don't think it's going to be for a long time. I think that we all thought that Trump was going to come in on his white horse as a knight in shining armor and do something, because we had 2 years of unhappiness within freight. And I feel that now we have a different type of unhappiness. So we need a different type of therapy.
I would say that the transportation industry as a whole will generally give Trump more of a pass, or at least more patience. If you look at it, I think it was Transport Topics, that this is about 5 years old, but they assumed that about 78% of the industry identifies as conservative. Anecdotally, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would too.
There's always exceptions. I mean, I've been to trucking companies in Chicago that I would not describe as conservative. But I would say that that's fairly the case. And so based off what I'm hearing from my peers elsewhere, I think most people have a high degree of patience given the extreme uncertainty and the rhetoric.
Yeah.
I would also say what's got people somewhat optimistic is we continue to see customers trying to get 2-year rates, lock those in, which generally is a good sign. The contract rate on the DAP boards is showing that it's holding steady. I think most people believe we are going to have a tough 6 months, not necessarily tougher than the last 2 years has been, though, to be honest, and that overall we're going to be okay. Most of the signs point to that, at least in the trucking industry. Now, with that said, it's the one thing that I will look at the stock market is there's a lot of companies that appear to be overvalued at this moment. And so just today, as we do this podcast, I think there was a huge drop on the Dow Jones of about 600 points. But most people would argue that the Dow Jones is overinflated at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a few things that concern people in terms of a bubble. And I'll give you an example. There's a company called NVIDIA. NVIDIA does semiconductors. They are really big in the AI world. Have about 36,000 employees based out of Santa Clara, California. For a company that most people do not know who NVIDIA is or what they do. The company has a market share of $2.7 trillion. Heavily, they are the player in the US when it comes to semiconductors and the AI. They are the play. So if you wanted to invest in AI, 9 times out of 10, you're investing in NVIDIA. Their stock right now, I think, is about 110 at the time that we're doing this. That's one of those stocks that people are watching very closely because it feels like there's a bubble because they don't really produce a product as of yet on the AI side. They are not heavily implemented. It is a futures play. It's why if you look at the last month, the Dow Jones is down about 6%, but NASDAQ is down about 11%. These are things like Google, NVIDIA, a lot of these technology plays here. Those are the ones that I wouldn't check them on a daily basis. But if there is a bubble from a stock standpoint, that's the one that I'm really looking at the NASDAQ. And I'm looking at NVIDIA because I think that is a futures play. You are investing in NVIDIA because you believe in the future.
Yeah.
And so it is going to be very interesting, especially people don't realize for a company like NVIDIA, which most people cannot tell you what NVIDIA does. A market share of $7.2 trillion dwarfs about 90% of the countries in the world total GDP.
I think that is a smart play by looking at something like that, something that's talking about the future and innovation, and with that being stable or definitely rising, that shows growth and stuff about the economy. Now that shows it more than most things.
And there's two big things without getting complicated on the economy. The economy is two really simple fundamentals: supply and demand. That impacts all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And consumer sentiment. How do you feel?
Part of the
problem for the Biden administration and why it became impossible, even after Kamala took charge of the campaign, for the Democrats to win. And don't get me wrong, hindsight's 2020. Thank you, Captain Hindsight. I get it. But when Biden's press secretary says inflation's in control, but people feel like it's not because they've seen their grocery bills go up 15%. That rhetoric no longer works because the consumer sentiment is that no, it's not under control. I now feel it.
Yeah,
that's
what I had
to overcome that.
I had to explain that to my mom. That part, I said, the American people is how do they feel? How do they feel in their heart? How do they feel in their pocketbook? Like, and you can't take that away. Like, once that's in there for whatever the reason is, once that's in there, that's all that somebody is concentrating on. And it's hard to get that out of there. That's just it. Just period. And that's why you say like being the loudest isn't good, but being organized and consistent at your message is what is better, i.e., why we have Trump.
It's hard. One of the things to keep in mind with any president is technically they don't make the laws. So ultimately everything DOJ does is still going to have to be approved. They've tried some things and it will go to the court and it will get shot down. Right. At the end of the day, it goes to the House and to the Senate. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to come from there. The number one responsibility of a president is being the country's cheerleader. Now, it drives people nuts because it seems like it's disingenuous or, wait, what the hell is he looking at?
Right.
But part of what a president does is literally being that P.T. Barnum, talking up a storm, getting the country excited. It was one of the things that was a challenge for Biden is Biden didn't do press conferences. He literally never talked. Now, we know now because he's going down the signs of dementia. That became very apparent at the debate. But that's part of what the president does, and I don't mean to oversimplify the president's job, but most of the people that you look at as good presidents over the last 100 years, one of the things you'll find in common is their ability to communicate a message to an audience that your average American could understand.
Right.
That especially Historically, we'll look at presidents differently, but if you live in the time of that president, their ability to communicate their message so that the person working a 40 or 50-hour work week could see them on TV for 2 minutes, go, oh, I get it. That is the number one job of a president.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about this good old diesel. So it dropped. That scares me. It dropped 5.3 cents to 3.58 a gallon. So now it has a combined drop of almost 12 cents over the last 2 weeks. It is 42 cents less than it was this time last year. Now, what we always like to do is talk about gasoline as well. Transport Topics didn't have it, so I had to go out and look for it. But gasoline as well, because everybody in DOT land is not diesel. So gasoline as of yesterday was 306. Last week was 307, so it was just a slight decrease. But last year, this time, it was 346. So like a 40 cents is 40 cents less than it was. And so that just kind of gives, even when people feel like something is high, it gives something a thought, that perception, like you say, to actually put it to real numbers. Yes, it might be high, or yes, it might be low, depending on how you feel. But just knowing what it was this time last year. But this is the time that, you can pick up another run as an owner-op or what have you, because the diesel is a little bit less right now.
And it helps with fuel surcharges being a lagging indicator. We spoke just about consumer sentiment, though. I filled up my 44-gallon diesel tank on my excursion 30 minutes before jumping on here with you. My consumer sentiment's not very good. That was $127. With that said, it is encouraging. It's a good sign here. I'm encouraged that it's not dropping more. And this is one of those leading indicators. When we start seeing it drop 10, 15, 20 cents in a week, that is a leading indicator that demand is not very good. Like I said, this would indicate from a driver standpoint in terms of the fuel that we're using right now, is it's mainly been weather induced, and outside of that weather, freight continues to start moving. It is a good sign that it is not dropping considerably. Now, it normally does drop this time of year as weather starts to warm up. It will drop, and then as we go into the summer months, it will start to climb again generally because the motoring public starts going out. But I'm excited to see 358. That's a good number.
That's a good number. Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about all of these hot jobs that Pierson has for us.
At Mesilla Valley Transportation, every driver is behind the wheel of a late model International LT, a truck that takes comfort, convenience, and safety to a whole new level. Join us as we explore the impressive features of this powerhouse on wheels. The open road is full of surprises, and sometimes that includes unexpected encounters with wildlife. But worry not, the International LT has you covered. The front end protection guard offers an extra layer of defense, protecting you from animal strikes. Drive with confidence, knowing that you're shielded from the unexpected. We all know how important it is to keep our batteries charged, and our International LTs have your back. The Cummins X15 is equipped with an auto start feature, ensuring that your batteries are automatically recharged when they run low on volts. It's a seamless process that keeps you powered up and ready to hit the road. Disc brakes and an engine brake provide reliable and safe stopping power when you need it most. You can have peace of mind knowing that you're in control. Safety is at the forefront of what we do. Our International LTs are equipped with top-of-the-line safety features to ensure your well-being while out on the road. These tractors are equipped with Bendix fusion protection, collision mitigation, and lane departure warning. Achieving good fuel efficiency deserves recognition. With the International LT, your efforts don't go unnoticed. When you consistently achieve impressive miles per gallon, the International LT rewards you with increased speed. It's a little extra motivation to keep you pushing for better fuel economy. After a long drive, you're ready for a well-deserved break. With the International LT, you can enjoy your rest period in absolute comfort, thanks to its auxiliary power unit You can keep the driver's cabin heated or cooled just the way you like it. No matter the weather outside, you'll always find your sweet spot within our International LTs. The International LT understands that comfort extends beyond driving. It's a space where you can truly feel at home. I'm a big guy, and I have room to move around in here. With plenty of room to spare, the International LT accommodates even the tallest drivers. And there's ample storage for all your clothes, cooking essentials, and tools, making life on the road even more convenient. Speaking of cooking, bring along your appliances and don't sacrifice any luxuries thanks to all of our International LTs being equipped with built-in inverters. Dry your hair, make a smoothie, or play a game, all from the comfort of your truck. We take pride in our well-maintained fleet, and if by chance you do come across something wrong on your truck, you're never far from help thanks to our valuable relationship with Penske. With more than 750 brick-and-mortar Penske shops nationwide, their expert team is always ready to assist you. From routine maintenance to unexpected repairs, they'll get you taken care of and back on the road in no time. And there you have it. Just a few things about this late model International LT that make MVT the place to be.
I like that commercial. I will point out driver comfort is a safety feature. It is important that a driver feels comfortable just from an enjoyment of the job standpoint. But between a driver in the sleeper berth, getting a full night's sleep, being able to have a life, a lot of people will talk about that as though that's some revolutionary, trade secret. It's a safety feature. I'd put the importance of that right up there with lane assist or animal guard, strike guards. The driver comfort, if you've ever been a driver and go to a job that you're in a truck you're uncomfortable in, you don't sleep well and you don't operate at 100%. Driver comfort in the truck is a safety feature. And if you want to have a safe fleet, you cannot put them in inferior equipment.
That is 100% true. Let me pull this up right quick. I text you about it. Luther Benford, speaking of, because I was going to talk about as we age, we understand the need of having good sleep and stuff like that. But Freight Caviar on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure they put it on other of their social medias as well. But he is Mesilla Valley's oldest driver, but he is definitely one of the oldest drivers in the United States. So first of all, shout out to MVT by not doing age discrimination, because this guy is 91. That is remarkable. So today, not today, what day was it? 4 days ago. So he is a Pisces. So 4 days ago was the 7th. So March 7th, he celebrated his 91st birthday, and he still runs 600 to 700 miles a day. And he's an OTR driver.
Yeah, I will point out to people, he's not a casual or a part-time driver. There's no special program for it. He outruns many people that are in their 20s. Hell of a guy, real humble, great leader in the organization, well respected by the operational team, by the other drivers he works with on the road, and gets shout outs from a number of our customers that really like him coming into their facilities. I don't know that he would know how to retire, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure he understands conceptually what that even is. But I will point out there's all sorts of theories in the industry when it comes to age. What I will point out is a driver needs to have a valid DOT medical card. That is the qualification. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor. I do not understand certain things like that. And to be honest, if you let me loose on WebMD, I'm probably going to diagnose you with some rare illness just because I don't know what I'm looking at. What I will say is Luther is a testament to our industry, and he drives as though he's 40 years younger than he is.
But this right here just shows you, because I was reading this and I was like, oh my God, let me send this to Pierson. And then I was like, oh my God, this is MVT. It's just so wonderful to know that me personally, to know I'm partnered with a company like MVT, like he's over 90 years old and still driving, and MVT is not discriminating. This is literally no discrimination. This is
been with
really
us since 98. Ran 4 million, coming up on 4 million miles with us safely. Like I said, true professional on the road. Let me see here, 2025 minus 1998, minus that would be 91 minus 27, 91 minus 27. Yeah, he would have been 64 when he joined us. Normally that's when most
He
people
was
start
still
slowing down.
retirement age. Yep.
Yeah.
He was still retirement age. And that's when you have a lot of companies that, not on paper, but they want to shy away from a driver is around about that age because of a lot of different things. But your older drivers right here, you see it, they're the ones that are going to show up to work every day, be intentional, and work all the time, literally. So this is great. This is awesome, and it's just talking about all the safety and things like that we are going to be talking about. So let's roll, Terrell. Let's jump into whichever job you want to pop up there first, T-Rail.
Let's talk about Division 150, averaging $1,400 to $1,600 a week. Really attractive running areas for a number of people there, running the South Central U.S. and Southeast U.S. Home weekly, great running lanes, routine customers, engineered lanes. We're looking for candidates that live out of the DFW Metroplex, the Houston area, or El Paso. We could be bringing on 5 to 6 folks a week that can do this division. It's one of our fastest expanding divisions at this moment. See a lot of new customers coming on, as well as current customers that are expanding the piece of the pie that they give to MVT because of our drivers, such as Luther. So a fun opportunity right here. And quite frankly, an attractive running area. I would say geography is probably the biggest sales pitch most drivers look at on this area. Don't want to go into the Northeast. Don't want to get into some of those states that get more in the way of snow. Exciting opportunities for Division 150. Let's look at Division 210. That's our Southwest Regional. Continue to have openings in Phoenix, Albuquerque, San Antonio, and Laredo for solo drivers averaging about $1,200 to $1,400 a week, running the Southwest U.S. Nice running lanes. We run stuff like the Container Store, IKEA, Walmart, Tesla, and a number of other customers that we work with here that we've been working with for over 2 decades in most of these cases. Again, weekly home time, going to have a life outside of the truck there. Going to see your dispatcher on a routine basis. Depending on where you start out of, you'll either do orientation in Laredo or El Paso. But this is one of those divisions that you generally will be sitting with your dispatcher, your fleet manager, at least once a week, and physically work in a collaborative work environment for your success. Additionally, we have some opportunities not listed here for some teams for Division 210 out of El Paso. If you live in El Paso and are part of a pre-made team, you'll average about $3,800 to $4,200 a week running the same area. We have the expedited freight to support a team on this regional opportunity for Division 210. We go to Division 400. Orientation for Division 400 generally takes place out of Nashville, Tennessee. Currently have openings out of Memphis and Nashville. Mainly nighttime driving in this scenario based off of the customer needs that we have here. So for those drivers that prefer to drive at night where you have less traffic on the road, really exciting opportunity running the southern Midwest states, southern Great Lakes states, Southeast U.S., and Mid-Atlantic states. Averaging about $1,650 a week on straight pay, but we also have some bonuses, productivity and safety bonuses aligned with this, anywhere between 2 to 5 cents per mile retroactively on all your miles. Be sure to talk to your recruiter about that when you call in the Rig on Wheels or ultimately work with MVT's internal recruiter. Again, looking for people out of Memphis and Nashville for Division 400, averaging about $95,000 to $100,000 a year. And last but not least, my favorite division, just because I love the running area on this, Division 430, Jacksonville to Houston to Laredo, back to Jacksonville again. About 60% of the business we do on this is with Lowe's out of Valdosta, Georgia, along with a litany of other customers that we have established relationships with. We rely very heavily on direct contracted customer freight, which leads to the consistency of this. And it's probably the most stress-free running lane as a professional out of Jacksonville that you can have. Again, weekly home time, normally to make that round trip loop, it's going to take about 4.5 to 5 days. You're averaging about $1,100 to $1,300 a week. We currently have openings for about 20 more individuals on this opportunity. So exciting opportunities for Division 430. And that would be our hot jobs for MVT this week. We got Division 150, 210, Division 400, Division 430. With that said, if you didn't see an opportunity in your market that sounds good to you, we are looking for other people in markets like Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Albuquerque, New Mexico, El Paso, Las Cruces, San Antonio, Laredo, DFW, Houston, Memphis, Little Rock, St. Louis, Louisville, Nashville, and Jacksonville have a lot of opportunities. And if I still haven't mentioned an area that you live, the nice thing with the Rig on Wheels folks, they have about 40 other clients that they work with. And so ultimately, even though I'm partial, I'd like you to go with MVT, with ultimately a lot of carriers that are going to fit one of your needs between you and any other decision maker in the process. If you talk to Rig on Wheels, have an honest discussion about what it is that you want, what kind of career path you want, not just another trucking job. The team there, Raven and Nimmer and everybody else, are going to work really hard to get you into the right opportunity. So be sure to call 281-968-3100. That's 281-968-3100. Or visit rigonwheels.com today. Again, I'm biased. I want you to join MVT. But Kameel, on the other hand, is going to put you with the company that works best for you.
Absolutely. And don't forget, definitely call us at 281-968-3100. Or like Pierson says, go directly to the website. And we kind of prefer that. Go directly to the website and at rigonwheels.com, click on the driver application tab, and you will be able to fill out the driver Intella app. And it's an auto population app. Correct all your information, bring it up to date, and one of them will be able to give you a call back either today or tomorrow. Most definitely. Majority of MVT's jobs, you'll have to have 6 months of tractor trailer experience. Just a heads up with that. We do have companies that need as little as 3 months, but with MVT, it is as little as 6 months experience. Now, Terrell.
One of the things I'd point out here, we do have a deal that we work with Rig on Wheels. So if you are a recent grad and you live in El Paso, Laredo, or DFW, we have opportunities there. So if you know somebody that is a recent graduate of a trucking school that has an ELDT, which most trucking schools are now required to have an ELDT, you can reach out to the Rig on Wheels team specifically if you live in Dallas, Fort Worth, Laredo, Texas, or El Paso. It's one of the few things that will work exclusively with Rig on Wheels. Great mentors that will work with you to get your career started on the right path.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Pierson. So what we want to do right now is, Terrell, take us to the driver appreciation commercial with you, please. Uh-oh.
New this morning, you see them on El Paso roads often, and they also help drive the U.S. economy. Thursday was Driver Appreciation Day. This was all video taken at Mesilla Valley Transportation. The event featured family-friendly activities, food, entertainment, prizes. MVT is there celebrating a great first quarter of the year with employees and their families.
They love these events. They come here, they bring their families, they have a great time, they take some food. If they're working, we give them the food to take out so they can keep working.
Those hard workers deserve a day off, or at least a celebration. One MVT employee also went home with a brand new car. The company says it gives away a car to the best driver each quarter.
Okay, so I thought we had the other one downloaded. Probably, I guess not. But what I want to do is, we know that MVT does the driver appreciation, but driver appreciation goes directly with safety, right? because they have to have the perfect CSA scores, things like that. So can you explain, Pierson, what they have to have, and then we'll kind of talk about the safety in the last few minutes?
What the driver has to have to get the MPG, or kind of specify?
Yes, what the driver has to have, the MPG and all of that.
Okay. Yeah. So what we do here at MVT is kind of unique from a standpoint that we get great fuel economy. Our fuel economy as a fleet averages anywhere between 9 to 9.5 miles a gallon. It's about 30% better than everybody else in the industry in terms of an average in our niche of the industry. It is not dumb luck that causes that. We take about 25 different steps to do that, but the number one step is driver behaviors on the road. It's operating safely, efficiently, pre-planning, understanding weather, and understanding the customers, the freight, and a whole bunch of other things that create a professional on the road that gets the best fuel economy. What we do every month is we have an MPG bonus that ranges between a penny to 4 cents a mile retroactively on all your miles. The key is to get at least 9 miles per gallon or better, so being average or above, and having no tickets, no accidents, no late deliveries. Additionally, on top of that, we want to reward those people that excel above and beyond. And so every quarter at the driver appreciation, we give away a brand new car to whoever has the best fuel economy on the quarter. Generally, the people winning it come from all walks of life, all sorts of different divisions. I've heard a lot of theories as far as, well, this division's easier to get it than this division, or that person's got 20 years of experience. We've had people with as little as 9 months in the industry win that brand new car. So it comes from all walks of life. We give away a car every quarter at our driver appreciation event. Generally, it's going to be a Nissan of some sort, averaging about $25,000 to $30,000. It's a cool little thing that you probably were not expecting, unless you really went out and tried to get the best fuel economy. The average person winning it right now is averaging well over 12 miles a gallon, which when I got into trucking in January of 2006 sounded like something from Star Trek. So it's kind of cool that we got that going on. Additionally, whoever has the best fuel economy on the year, which we've had people that never won it for a single quarter, but when you compile the whole year up, ended up winning it. We have one individual that's won it 5 different times by the name of Roberto Sandoval. We give a $25,000 check, big check. We're excited to celebrate it. And honestly, it's a team effort. Dispatchers, fleet managers, load planners, they get excited when one of their drivers win this award. It is a big deal. There's a lot of resources to help doing that. There's a department called Driver Services that literally their sole function is to work with you in your career path to make you the best you that you can be on the road. And that's the difference here. We're not looking for somebody to fill one of our trucks for the next 90 days. We ultimately want to have a long-term working relationship with you. It's a very collaborative work environment. So some of these things that we do where other companies go, how the hell are you pulling that off? Because it's a team. It's not one person just running down the road wildly in a truck. It is a calculated, methodical process. And it's why we're one of those companies. We have 0 categories on CSA above threshold. It's why we get invited into a lot of bids for a lot of customers that if you're at an unsafe carrier, you're not invited to the table to even have that conversation.
Yeah, and that kind of takes me right into this question, because I know in order for those drivers to even be in that category, the top 50, the top 10, all of that, they have to be safety conscious drivers, right? So what type of safety training does MVT drivers undergo before they hit the road?
Yeah, with the people in the early stage of their career, such as we talked about with people that are recent grads, they're in the truck with an experienced mentor for at least 60,000 miles. These are people that have been on the road with us at least 18 months, have no tickets, no accidents, have never been late, excel at communication, and ultimately are giving back to the next generation, which is also a cool career path that we see a lot of people now going into. We have about 200 trainers, and that number is growing. What we refer to as a mentor, which really is more descriptive of what they do. Because even after people get out of the truck with them, they are readily available to answer questions and give advice. The other part of that is our orientation is not you just sitting in class doing prerequisite, check marks on boxes. We physically go over the equipment, its features, the APU, the lane assist, every part of that truck. So when you leave with that truck, you can be familiar with it. So if you've never been in an International ProStar, you will leave with some level of expertise from orientation with that truck. The third piece and the biggest piece there is we're big on career development. We want to work with you on becoming a better driver. So if it's fuel economy, if there's been issues over the road, it's not our job to go through firing everybody. There's an opportunity,
Mhm.
training opportunities and growing and getting better. The driver you are today should not be the same driver you are 5 years from now. If it is, if you don't grow and you go, look, I just want to be left alone and I want to do the same thing. We live in a very adaptable industry. I can tell you when I got into the trucking industry in 2006, the common thing I heard in every orientation is, I'm not a mechanic. I don't need to know what's going on under the hood. I heard it every single orientation. You never hear that anymore because we change
Yeah,
and we adapt and rules change, regulations change.
right.
And what people value from that driver behind the steering wheel change. We live in a very advanced world that's going to continue to change, and your ability to adapt with it and grow and be that subject matter expert in the truck is your value proposition. Where we invest our time, money, and resources is developing you into the true professional of the road that other companies, quite frankly, envy.
Pearson, stop looking at my notes that I'm looking at the next thing because I want to talk about now, like the technology and things like that. We know we're in the people business. We know we and all of that, but technology and advancing and investing in that does help driver safety. So, what type of advances or technology does MBT invest in?
Yeah, the trailer alone between the fins on the back and underneath the truck, giving knowledge on how to utilize those to get great fuel economy, and ultimately in the truck between lane assist and brake, early brake warnings, the technology and the in-cab communication with the ELDT or ELD, and quite frankly, the communication between the load planner, the fleet manager, and the driver is phenomenal. Like I said earlier in the podcast, driver comfort is
Yeah.
not a luxury item. That is literally a safety feature. The ability to have a driver in the truck that feels comfortable and can get a full night's sleep and not feel stressed. Having a seat, as an example, investing money into an upgraded seat. A lot of times this gets overlooked. The driver spends an unusual amount of time in a seat. If you go cheap and you put the bare bones basic
Yeah.
minimum seat in that truck, between the physical toll that it takes on the driver and quite frankly the driver's ability to stay alert, it seems like if somebody's never been a truck, that seems like a luxury item. It is not. It is a must have. So we look at a lot of this stuff that some places look at as luxury. We look at it as a necessity, like it's not a negotiable thing.
Yeah, and that was part of my next thing, that a lot of fleets and companies feel that driver wellness and rest is a luxury. They don't realize that that is part of safety. Safety is part of profit and retention. It just
I
all connects.
I was consulting for a company one time, and they had their trucks pretty chromed out. A lot of money spent on chrome. And I go, guys, you have no lane assist. You literally have the bare bone basic in terms of a driver's seat. The setup in the sleeper berth is cramped. So instead of a 71-inch sleeper berth, they had the 56. I go, you have no APU. So, and you won't let drivers bring an inverter. So you don't have the APU. So literally the driver is in discomfort the entire time on the road. But you've spent $15,000 on chrome. You're investing in the wrong thing. You're not investing in the driver. You are literally investing in appearances, which is cool. You'll win a truck show at Pride and Polish. That's cool. But your driver's going to be miserable, but will look cool while he's miserable.
Yeah, he'll look good. He'll swagalicious, but he'll be all bent over and all of that stuff. So
might as well cover the hood with cubic zirconium at that point.
But next episode, because I have quite a few other questions, and next episode I really want us to even get more into it, because the driver appreciation really goes more in depth with the safety and with the retention and all of that. And that goes along with a lot. It goes along with me talking about with my other podcasts. I'm talking about similar things, and I bring up MVT's name quite a bit with what I'm talking about. It just kind of flows with it. So I do want to continue this kind of like a series. So
I've seen the notes. We got a lot of meat on the bone we can cover.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, everybody. I guess this is all we have for this Tuesday, and we will definitely we'll definitely see you back next Tuesday. So that'll be on the 18th. I had to add 7 days to the 11th. And by that
Sounds
time,
right.
everybody should be past daylight savings and all of that and all the crying behind it, or at least me crying behind it. All righty. So everybody be safe, no wind blowing and all of that. So